Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news out on Netflix today. Anthony Jeselnik's Bones and All. Jeselnik is also a guest on Mark Maron's podcast this week. I haven't gotten to listen to it yet. Vulture wrote a nice piece about Anthony last week and spoke to several comedians about Anthony Jeselnik. Vulture described Jeselnik as both evil and arrogant in his stand-up, and the whole package is presented with the deliberative pacing of a meditation app. His stage presence is coolly predatory, emphasized by his leather jacket and jeans look, wolf-like features, and the measured way he moves. Sarah Silverman compared it to wrestling and said he's the heel and he takes it and he makes it really highbrow. She looked back at Anthony's breakout performance in the 2011 roasts of Donald Trump and Charlie Sheen and said the conceit of the roast is that it's friends who adore each other, tearing each other apart. That's not Anthony. Vulture writes, roasts are designed to have the pretense of meanness, but Silverman says the audience is also laughing because they suspect it might be true. This is a good piece by Vulture. Continuing, they wrote, it's easy to mistake many comedians' acts as representative of their private selves. Jim Gaffigan plays up the affable dad, and Ali Wong is the snappish, sexually aggressive mom. Their comedy requires buying into those identities and accepting them as sincere, but Jeselnik's act requires cognitive dissonance. He can't be wholly the person he plays on stage or it'd be too horrible to laugh at. Off stage, in conversational speech, he's faster, but his words have the same weighty, carefully chosen quality. He's thoughtful, polite, a little particular, and boring on aesthetic in a singular focus on stand-up as an artistic end. His podcasting partner, Greg Rosenthal, said people saw his personas like, man, this guy's an a-hole, but it was harder for me to see because I knew that he wasn't that big of an a-hole. Interesting line from Jeselnik here, talking about getting older. He says, friends getting cancer. These are things when you're just waiting for the news from everyone. I'll be 46 in a couple months. A lot of things don't make me laugh. Nicky Glaser recalled seeing Jeselnik perform at an open mic early in his career and said he had these notes up there with him. And he said, I don't have these notes because I don't know my jokes. I brought these notes on stage because I don't have any respect for you. Glaser says, that was a formative moment for me to witness somebody to be that bold and aggressive on stage and have it work. Vulture asked Jeselnik about that line and said, that's one of my favorite jokes. I always do it when I'm trying out jokes. And it's in the bleeping Showtime documentary about the Comedy Store that Mike Binder effed up. He used that without my permission. He put it in there and listen, no one saw that thing, so I could still do it. Jeselnik did some self-assessment. I would guess that most of my comic friends think I'm a better comic, that I'm more pure, that I do things they wouldn't try to do. He's annoyed at the current wave of indie scene clowning comedians, says Vulture. It's influencers who decided stand-up was going to be too hard. One of my gifts is I never try to make it easier. I've always kept it hard. If I show up and do a silly dance, I couldn't operate like that. Too much pride. He discussed Rife and said, I truly believe all roads lead to me. I just don't know why you could eat steak and you would want to eat cow poo. Does it bother him that audiences are drawn to Matt Rife? I'm sure Gordon Ramsay doesn't lose sleep at night because McDonald's sells billions of hamburgers. I also take exception to the idea that the country prefers Matt Rife over me. That's like saying the country prefers James Patterson over Sally Rooney. Popularity is not a metric I use to measure myself against other artists. He was asked about the Tony Hinchcliffe garbage joke. Jeselnik, not pulling punches, said he thought the Brady roast was his big moment, even though I think those jokes were hack as hell. He's a troll, basking in the shadow of Joe Rogan. Vulture says Jeselnik also has no patience for displays of vulnerability like the Edinburgh-type shows. There's no comedian who tells me what their life is like where I even give the slightest semblance of an F. I do not care. You're wasting time. I get that there are people who are interested in this, but it's not what I want to do. I have an hour up there. I want to pack that hour with pure ingenuity and brilliance. You know, based on that article, I don't think I would enjoy driving cross-country with him. I enjoy his comedy, but I don't think I'd want to ride in the car with him. You know what I'm saying. Seems like the comedy winds are shifting a little bit, and we're getting back into edgy. Ari Shaffir has struck a 2 special deal with Netflix. The first one, Ari Shaffir's America's Sweetheart, will be on Netflix January 14th, making it probably the #1 special of 2025, the first time I start a 2025 list, unless he doesn't make the list, unless it's bad. And I go, it's so bad, it's not even on a non-existent list. Here's the official press release wordage for America's Sweetheart. From the joys of domestic terrorism to the genius of Kanye West, Ari Shaffir figures out a way to find the positive in gun violence, racism, censorship, political upheaval, gay rights, anti-Semitism, and opioid abuse in this hilarious and darkly uplifting stand-up comedy special. Netflix is also picking up Ari's YouTube special from 2022, Ari Shaffir Jew, making it the first time a YouTube special will air on Netflix. Interesting. Shaffir told Deadline in a statement, years of drug abuse has dulled my ability to feel jubilation over network deals, but my mother will be able to brag about this to her friends at Jazzercise, which is nice. I enjoy his comedy too. Also don't think I want to ride cross-country with him. Who do you want to ride cross-country with, John? Larry the Cable Guy. That's who, because he's awesome. I remember yesterday I talked about Anna Gasteyer for like 10 minutes. Well, as soon as I flipped the laptop shut, I got this from the SketchFest publicist. Thank you, publicist. Appreciate you. SketchFest announces additions to 2025 Comedy Festival. Newly added performers include Anna Gasteyer, joining the Groundlings 50th anniversary. That should be a great show, by the way. SketchFest announces additions to the festival, taking place January 16th through the 2nd of February. The festival will host over 180 shows. Some of the new shows include An Evening with Mr. Throwback, featuring the creators, directors, and stars of the hit show. Also added, Let's Laugh About Hard Stuff with Anna Sale. The Groundlings 50th anniversary show also includes Anna, Michael Hitchcock, Lorraine Newman, Phil Lamar, Oscar Nunez, Julia Sweeney, and more. Theme Park Improv, alongside Kevin Pollak, Gary Anthony Williams, Rachel Dratch, and more. Check out the full lineup at sfsketchfest.com. I'm mad at this. I accidentally skipped this from one of the scripts. You know, the whole thing with Jay Leno? Kathleen Madigan came to Jay Leno's defense. This is the item that I left out of one of the shows, and I'm mad. Kathleen said, I've known Jay Leno for 35 years. Yeah, he would stay at such a hotel. Yeah, he would climb down a hill for wings. It's why I've always liked him. Still just a road comic who wants 24 wings. Well, go get him. Katt Williams has bought a former Alabama military base to launch a movie studio. Katt Williams' publicist, Amy, told AL.com, I can't disclose the amount or exact location just yet, but I can confirm that he has purchased a former military base in Alabama. Well, how many former military bases in Alabama could there be? AL.com did some research and see that Fort McClellan's barracks in Anniston had been up for sale at $1.5 million asking price. That'd be a good guess. The area is known as Starships. I don't know why. And we are told the barracks and surrounding property consist of 30 concrete buildings with 3 million square feet of indoor space, 10 barracks with 20 rooms each, 2 large gymnasiums, and more than 90 acres of usable flat land. That seems like a place where you might build a movie studio. Connie Alexander was the designated broker, which represented the seller of the barracks. Connie says the property was purchased through an LLC, but did concede that Katt Williams did visit the property frequently during the purchase phase. So I did watch Jim Gaffigan's special. It's perfectly fine. An average civilian will like it. You know, if somebody sits down and they hit play on it and Jim Gaffigan hands that in, they won't be like, this is terrible. They'll be like, this is fine, but I'm a comedy snob. There's nothing special about it. And I know that the media has decided that this is Jim's time and he's stepped up in class or something. A lot of narrative about that. But I preferred Adam Ray's special by a lot. I think this review from laughingplace.com nailed it. They wrote, throughout the first half of the skinny, I found myself laughing out loud repeatedly, even when I could see certain punchlines coming. Yep. Gaffigan's delivery would often make the joke for me, and while this remained the case in the second half, I wasn't quite as sold on the material. It's not that his observations on marriage and kids aren't funny, it's just they're pretty well-worn territory for him at this point, with this being his 11th special. Even his closing joke was weak, which doesn't seem like a good sign for a comedy special. I didn't make it that far. Like I said, I got 15 minutes in. I was like, I got to play Flight Simulator 2024. I got stuff to do. So I've got another item for you, and I really don't want to be the you just hate Jim Gaffigan guy. But you heard the but coming, right? But Jim was on the NFL pregame on Fox over the weekend, and they did this sketch. Jim is a therapist consulting fans of the Saints, Raiders, Bears, and Jets on playoff delusion. I'll play it through the Bears part. Once you get to the Jets part, it becomes more visual. But here, let's listen, and you can tell me what you think. Facebook group, Daily Comedy News podcast group.
My name is Jim Gaffigan. I am a licensed professional NFL realist. Classic. I specialize in football fans struggling with playoff delusion. He's a good-looking guy. Many of my clients can't face the reality that their teams aren't going to make the playoffs.
We scored 98 points in our first 2 games.
Wow.
It was really impressive.
What happened after that?
We lost 7 in a row.
Well, that doesn't sound like a playoff team, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, you're welcome.
There's still a chance we make it. We're the bad boys of the NFL.
I'll give you that. The Raiders are bad. You're not going to the playoffs. Here. Halloween's over. Take off the makeup, honey. Now, you're aware to get into the playoffs, it's not by invitation. You have to win enough games.
He doesn't acknowledge the division that the Bears are in.
Okay, I'd like you to take your wife's hand, look her in the eyes, and just List the other teams in the NFC North.
The Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers. We're not going to make it, are we?
Hilarious? Not hilarious? You tell me. I did like the line. Like I said, I skipped the Jets part because it's pretty visual. But when the Jets fan is leaving, Jim says, "See you next year." King Charles was at the Royal Variety Performance, and Matt Ford got up and performed. Matt did Trump in character, said they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and then turned to the king and said, "Your Majesty King Charles, you were named after a spaniel. Be very careful, they'll eat you alive." Cameras caught the king laughing heartily in response. After the show, Matt Ford met the king and said, "Did you mind the joke about sounding like a spaniel?" And Charles said, "No, it was a very good joke. You waited for 300 years to be able to say it." Apparently, Matt Ford laughed at the king's comeback there. By the way, Harry and Meghan, Harry's got this show about polo that's coming out next week, and he's getting savaged. Check out the Palace Intrigue podcast. We talk about the royal family, and it's going to be another round of poor Harry, poor Meghan. They get everything wrong. And I'll leave you with this one. Joe Rogan, he's in the news a lot. This next story got a lot of pickup. Rogan on his Friday episode had some comments about President Biden and criticized Biden's decision to allow Ukraine to use some missiles. Rogan said, "How are you allowed to do that when you're on your way out? People don't want you there anymore. There should be some sort of pause for significant actions that could potentially start World War III. Zelensky says Putin is terrified. F you, man. F you people. You people are about to start World War III. Rogan suggested Ukraine pursue negotiations instead of escalating military actions. Quoting Rogan, "Maybe that'd be a good thing. Would like to avoid from a dying former president. We voted Trump in, and his idea is to stop all this stuff, and hopefully he can do that." Send your letters to Joe Rogan, and that is your comedy news for today. If you would like the program without commercial interruption, if you're on Apple Podcasts, click that banner there. If you're not on Apple Podcasts, check the link in the show notes. See you tomorrow.